I'll record.
One second. Ah. Okay, in the meanwhile, while it loading, so we are discussing about industries, where I said that industries are very essential for the economic development of a particular country. If industries have to be developed as such, what are the important steps that have to be taken by the government of India or for any reason for any country? What are the important steps that have to be taken? So when we say industries, like for example, in 1947, when we talk about history, we all know that we got independence in 1947. But when we got independence in 1947, the problem is that we did not have proper. It is troubling me today. Yeah. So all these last time I have explained about the mode of occurrence, distribution of minerals, and all that I've explained. Oh, it is troubling me today. Yeah, so we will talk about industries. So industries are a part of secondary activity. Last week also we discussed that there are three sectors of the economy, that is the primary sector, secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. And industries will be a part of the secondary sector. What is secondary sector and secondary activity is that it is mainly concerned with the transformation of the raw materials into the finished products, or you also call them as the final goods or the consumer products also. So they will give us value. That means whatever products we purchase, they are of value for you. It also refers to the economic activities with the production of goods and services also. So they are concerned with production of goods, extraction of minerals, provision for services, and there are also engineering industries also, or emerging industries, which are called as the sunrise industries. So suppose if an industry has to be set up in a particular area, what are the important factors that the industrialists look for? First is power supply, because without power, it is not possible for the industries to function. Second one is communications. That means you require transport, you require communications also. Labor, I said, in labor, when we talk about, there are different kinds of labor. Can anyone tell me labor includes what all types of labor? Because I explained this last time also. I just want to know whether you are very clear with that. Yes? Yeah.
Physical labor is one thing where people work.
I'm seasonal.
Okay.
Skilled and unskilled. Very good. Skilled, unskilled, and technical, and also professional. Experts, you call it as. When you say labor supply, means you require all these kinds of people. An industry requires skilled, unskilled, technical, professional, experts. All these people are required. So if you are able to get that labor supply, that is the most important factor that is suitable for the establishment of the industry. Next is access to the market. Why access to the market is that a company should not spend more money on transporting the goods than selling the goods. So always it should be access to the market should be very nearer, where they will not be spending much money on the transport. Then next one is most important thing is that governmental factors. How does the government help in setting up? That means what are the incentives? Now, when I say incentives, there are different kinds of incentives that are given by different state governments. Like for example, they can say that they will be providing water supply and power supply to the industry for a period of 1 year or 2 years. It can be at a subsidized price. They can give free of cost also. It all depends. What are the offers and incentives that the government gives? That is also one of the factors. That means they should be friendly enough. The government should be friendly enough, should not impose so many restrictions by which the industrialists find it difficult to set up an industry. That is one factor. Second one is, of course, the most important thing is the availability of the raw materials. If the raw materials are available at a nearer place also, that is also one of the important factors. Last time I was talking about agglomeration and footloose industries. Agglomeration is that I gave you the example of SEZs, that is special economic zones, where a number of industries will come together and try to utilize all the factors that are available. When a large number of industries are grouped together, that will be called as an agglomeration economy. Okay, agglomeration economy means where a number of industries come together, pool the resources and try to utilize the resources so that all the industries will be benefited as such. So I can read out this also. They do this to benefit from local skill pools, economies of scale, or the powers of an locality in a particular field. Like, for example, financial service companies, which are headquarters in the city of London. Footloose industries are those we are very specific to a geographical location. For example, computer software development, or you talk about telephone sales and call centers also. That means they are not dependent on factors that they are tied up to a particular location. Like, for example, if you take iron and steel industry, it should be located in the area where this iron ore is available. It cannot be set up somewhere else. Whereas if you talk about a software development technology, or you talk about a telephone sales or a call center, for example, you can set up anywhere because they are not dependent upon the raw materials. They are not specific for the raw materials. They mostly try to generate employment opportunities. That is the main difference between agglomeration economy and the footloose industry. Okay. Now, the most important thing we talk about is the industrial policy. So what is an industrial policy of a government? Is that the action of the government to influence the ownership and the structure of the industry and the performance. Now, when I say ownership, whether it should be under the control of the government, or whether it can be a private sector, or whether it can be a global enterprise, that means it can be an MNC, or it can be a combination of both the public sector and the private sector.
Joint sector.
Yeah, very good. Joint sector. We call it as a joint sector. So the most important thing for any country is what is the industrial policy that you follow. Accordingly, only your industrial development also will take place. Okay, so it takes the form of paying subsidies, providing finances, or any other. That means you talk about your rules, regulations, procedures, principles, then incentives, tariff policy, labor policy, government's attitude. All this is called as industrial policy. Now, before going into the entire concept, I think I started tariff policy. What is a tariff policy? Can anyone give me the explanation? What is a tariff policy? Tariffs means what? Do you know, or should I continue?
Ma'am, I think it's a type. Tariff means, I think it's a type of tax.
Very good. It is a tax barrier. They're all called as a tax barriers, you call it as. That means you, in 10th class, you must have learned about globalization. In globalization, we get this word called as a tariffs. Tariff barriers, or tax barriers. Now, what are these tariff policy, or what is tariff barriers? Is that before 1991, there was a lot of restriction on the exports and the imports in our country. That means the country was not allowed to import certain products. That means there was a list of products which can be imported, a list of products that can be exported. Beyond that particular list, the country cannot export, the country cannot import. This was called as the tariff policy that we followed. That means we followed a restricted policy, or in other words, we also used the word called as a trade barriers. We had a trade barrier. We were not allowed to use anything. So this is also one of the important policy which is a part and parcel of the industrial policy. So when I say what is an industrial policy, means these are all the words you will use: procedures, principles, then policies, then you have the rules and regulations, incentives. What are the incentives you are going to give? Like I told you that the government nowadays is providing special economic zones. Special economic zones is that where the government itself is creating a economic zone wherein they are inviting the industrialists to come and set up their industries. They are inviting the industries by providing them all the necessary facilities, whatever they want. That is what you call it as incentives. Tariff policy, labor policy. What is a labor policy? That means mainly seeing that they get fair wages, they're getting good working conditions, especially there is security of the job. You cannot remove the worker just like that. All these forms the labor policy. Then government's attitude towards a foreign capital. That means whether you are allowing the MNCs to come and set up their industries in our country, whether you are clearing all the dues or not, this is also a very important aspect. That means how far you are liberal in allowing the companies to come and set up their plants in our country is what is called as the foreign direct investment. You call it as the FDI. That is also part and parcel of the industrial policy. Clear till here? Then, what are the main objectives of the industrial policy of India in the government of India, if you take, to maintain sustained growth in productivity? Productivity means continuous production of goods and services, so that when there is continuous production, there is continuous employment opportunities, generation of income, and also your GDP also remains the same. That is what you call it as sustained growth in productivity. If you are having more production, if you are producing more and more goods, that means you are also providing a lot of employment opportunities. The main reason in our country why there is a lot of unemployment problem is that, can anyone give why there is a lot of unemployment still after so many years? Is that because we fail to provide jobs in the secondary sector and the tertiary sector. That is the main difference between the European countries and the India. That means in other countries, for example, if you take Australia or UK, Canada, all these European countries, if you take, for example, only 5% of the people are dependent upon agriculture. 95% of the people are employed in the secondary sector and the tertiary sector. That means
lack of education also.
Very good, very good. There are that is the next point we talk about. Why are we not able to create employment opportunities in the secondary sector and the tertiary sector? Is one is education, second one is what do you require when you want to work in an industry or in a tertiary sector? You require
some skill.
Very good. You require education. You also require the skills. That is where we are lagging behind. That is the main objective of the new education policy of 2020, where they want to go for the skill-based education, because in our country, most of our education is theory-based. That means we don't have any practical skills as such. So directly, you cannot be absorbed into any of the sectors unless you are given a proper training. So if we are able to give them the skills right from the education sector, maybe you can create a lot number of jobs as such. So why India failed to create employment opportunities is that because we don't have education, we don't have skills also properly, and these two sectors fail to generate employment opportunities. So if the industrial sector, that is the reason why the government of India has come up with a concept called as Made in India, Atmanirbharta. All these are nothing but the policies which are meant to create employment opportunities. If you become Atmanirbhar, if you try to become Skill India, Digital India, all these are the various concepts that have been brought about by the Modi government. It is nothing but so that you are equipping the people with skill. In our country, the major problem that we face is that we don't have skills. So skilled people are very, very important. Maybe we are having educated people. Educated people are different again. Skilled people are different again. Along with education, we should also have the skill. Okay. Then, to achieve optimum utilization of human resources, that means India is a country which is the second highest populated country, and we have the lot of human resources. So you have to channelize the human resources in a proper manner, then India can achieve anything in the world. But only thing is that unless and until you create these employment opportunities, it is not possible that we will be able to achieve growth as such. To attain international competitiveness, this is the most important factor in industry. What is the main difference between China and India is that China is very strong in manufacturing sector. Whereas in our country, manufacturing sector suffers a lot. We don't have a proper manufacturing sector. That is the reason why Atmanirbharta came into existence. They are saying that replace your global with local. That is the main slogan that has come up with. That means wherever it is global, try to replace it with your local. You produce your own things instead of using the global products. So by which you will be able to achieve your international competitiveness. That means whatever product you produce, it should be of international standard. That is the reason why you use the word called as ISO, International Standard Organization. What is International Standard Organization is that which will grade the products and say that whether they are reaching that international standard or not. So it is our responsibility to see that we produce the products which are of international standards, to transform India into a major partner and player in the global arena. That means if we really concentrate and we can do something, then we become a major partner, because now only you can see that most of the MNCs look up towards India, because India has really good educated people and they are also hardworking people, and they say that basically Indians are very intelligent also. That is the reason why they turn towards us. Only thing is that if we were able to sharpen our skills a little and try to become more and more responsible, then maybe India will be able to control. That is what they are saying, that the economists always say that after 2030, the center of gravity or the center of power will be transferred to the Southeast Asian countries. Earlier it was the European countries. Till now it is a European countries, like all the G7 countries like Australia, UK, or you talk about USA, Germany, Italy, Canada. All these countries are dominating the world till now. But maybe after 2030, the entire power will be shifting towards Southeast Asia. What are the Southeast Asian countries are mainly when we talk about Singapore, Taiwan, then you talk about Korea, then you talk about Japan, China, maybe India also can be a part of it if the things are doing very well, if the people are, and the government also puts in its efforts, we can easily try to become a global player also. So these are the objectives of the industrial policy of the government in India. Am I clear with these objectives, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, yes, ma'am.
Coming to the industrial policies, as I told you that in 1947 we got independence. When we got independence in 1947, we had only one industry, that is iron and steel industry. Only we had. We didn't have any industry. So we had to start from the scratch. That means setting up of the industrial sector was the main goal of the Indian government. So what happened is that we had the first, these are all called as IPRs, IPR 1948. So what is the IPR 1948? Remember all these concepts. IPR 1948, IPR 1951, IPR 1971 or 77, and one more is in 1991. What are the changes? How did the entire industrial policy of the government changed from 1948 to 1991? So till 1990, even the industrial policies mainly concentrated only on establishing or giving importance to the public sector. Most of the companies were under the control of the public sector. The private sector only played a second fiddle. That means it was only helping the public sector. They did not have much industries. We never had any industries as such under the private sector because most of it was under the public sector only. The reasons why public sector played a very important role, or why did the public sector had to play an important role, is that there are 3 or 4 points you have to remember. That is, the first thing is that when we got independence in 1947, if you have to set up an industry, you have to invest in crores. Yeah, first and foremost is that you have to invest. The private sector was not willing to invest. Why? The reason is that there is something called as gestation period. What is a gestation period? Is that, for example, if you set up an iron and steel industry, you cannot expect profits within 1 month, 1 year, or 6 months. You will not be able to get. To stabilize the industry only, it will take 3 years or 5 years. So immediately you will not get the profits. So this particular period is called as a gestation period. That means it will take some years to earn the profit if you are going for a large scale industry. So the private sector, first of all, did not have so much of money. Even if they had also, they did not want to take the chance because the gestation period is very large. Am I clear with the gestation period?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the gestation period was very huge. And second thing is that they were not ready. They did not have the money also. The third thing is that the next one we talk about is that we did not have the skilled people. After 75 years only, we are at the same place. We did not have so many skilled people at that particular period of time. So the public sector was supposed to take up the responsibility of setting up of the industries. Secondly, then investing, then also trying to set up the centers by which it will train the people so that they will become skilled people, trained people, and technical people also. So in a gist, the industrial policies of IPR of 1948, 1951, 1970, still then, we find that the public sector played a very important role. Everything was under the control of the public sector. But after 1991, we find that there was a total change. What was the total change in 1991? Do you know what happened in 1991?
No, ma'am.
In 1991, we had, that means what happened is that in 1991, we have reached a stage where our foreign exchange reserves or the entire money in our country was there to last for another 15 days only. That means after 15 days, okay, after 15 days, India virtually will not have any money to run the country also. Okay, that was the situation. So at that time, the Indian government at that time was, I think it was Congress, and it was P.V. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. So they approached the World Bank asking for $7.5 billion as loan because virtually India did not have any money at that time. The World Bank agreed to give $7.5 billion on one condition, that you have to liberalize, privatize, and globalize your economy. That means you have to open your economy to the world. If you do that, we will give this. Only on that condition they agreed to give. So the government of India had to take this revolutionary step by which they had to come up with a new economic policy, which is called as the liberalization policy in 1991. It was a very historic, bold decision that was taken up by P.V. Narasimha Rao, and at that time, Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, and I do not know how many of you have heard about that particular person by name Montek Singh Ahluwalia. These three are considered to be the main pioneers for the Indian transformation. Had they not taken the decision at that particular time, maybe India would not have reached this stage where we are today. So that was a bold decision that was taken at that time. There were lots of problems, there were discussions, but whatever it is, but we were desperate. We had no other choice because we had to take them. So that is how we got the concept called as a liberalization, then privatization, and the globalization, which is popularly called as the LPG policy. Am I clear? This is the gist I'm giving you. So I'll just go through all the policies. So in 1991, we had to liberalize, we had to remove all the trade barriers. How many you want to export, you can export. How many you want to import, you can import. Then privatization is that the public sector became virtually, the public sector became very less. Private sector.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt in between.
No
I have a doubt.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, does India still follow the policy of LPG?
You want me to tell me the entire thing?
No, ma'am. Does it still follow?
We are having now only that only we are having. No. Liberalization, privatization, and globalization. What is liberalization? That means removing the government control. There is no government control. Hardly few industries are under the control of the government. Most of the industries are under the private sector. Is it not now? Now, I'll ask you one question. Today, okay, except for IAS and certain civil services, how many of the people want a government job now? Who are running after government jobs now? Hardly any few people, hardly very few people.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct or wrong? Because there are so many private sector industries nowadays, people are running for the private sector. That is liberalization. Where you don't have any problems, that is privatization. What is liberalization? Today, you are able to buy the world brand products all over the world, whatever brands are there, are available in your market or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Earlier, people used to go to different countries and they used to bring from there. When you bring a product, that means I'm talking about before 1991. Suppose if you bring something from US or UK or Canada or wherever it is, you have to pay 3 times the price of the product. Am I clear? Because it was not allowed. But now, the shops only are selling all the brands. Now you go to any electronic shop, you get TVs, you get refrigerators, you get electronic goods of various brands all over the world. Correct or not?
Yes, ma'am.
That is liberalization. That means you are allowing and you are also exporting. Even Indian products are found in other markets. Other countries' products are found in Indian markets. This is what is called as liberalization. Second one is privatization. What is privatization? Today, hardly few companies are under the control of government. The rest are all private sector only. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the third one? I said globalization. What is globalization? Now, if you take entire India, for example, you must be saying in Bangalore. You are from Bangalore only?
No, ma'am, Delhi. No, ma'am,
Delhi.
Delhi.
You are in Delhi. So you know very well how many MNCs are there? How many multinational corporations are there in our country? Yeah? Are they there or not? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
That is globalization. That is globalization. You have Microsoft, you have Google, you have Tesla, you have so many companies that have come. I'm just giving you a few names of the companies. There are n number of companies in our country. That is what is called as globalization. So we are following from 1991 till today. The country has changed so much. I think recently we have completed 25 years of economic reforms also. 1991 we started. And by this time, we have almost completed 25 years. So the credit goes to those particular leaders who have taken that bold decision and India became a superpower. That means we are slowly inching towards, and today, India, you know that how the world countries are looking up to India, and most of the MNCs want to set up their industries in our country. Am I clear? So what is the industrial policy resolution? It defined the broad contours of the policy, delineating the role of the state in industrial development, both as an entrepreneur and that's what I told you. In 1948, the public sector has taken upon the responsibility to set up all the industries. As I told you that the private sector was not willing. Second one is that we are going to have a mixed economy. This also explained in the earlier chapters only. What is a mixed economy? Where you have the public sector and private sector enterprises both working together. That is called as a mixed economy. What are the two other economies I said? Capitalistic economy, socialistic economy. Children, you should remember this. Always you should know what are the three types of economies we have. Capitalistic economy, socialistic economy, mixed economy. Capitalistic economy is it where the markets are free. The government interference is not there. It is totally zero. US is an example. All the Western European countries are capitalistic economies. USA, UK, Canada, Italy, Germany, all these countries are called as capitalistic economies. What is a socialistic economy? Once upon a time, this was also very dominant, but today hardly we have very few economies which are socialistic economies. We can give the example of China, but China is a combination of both socialistic and capitalistic also. In some places they are socialistic, and some places they are communist. Mixed economic model is our country where we give importance to both the public sector as well as to the private sector also. Am I clear? So it has divided the industries into broad categories called as strategic industries. That is the public sector industries. That is arms, ammunition, atomic energy, and the rail transport. These are called as the strategic industries because they are very important for the country as such. Atomic energy and rail transport. Basic industries are your iron and steel industry, then aircraft, shipbuilding, manufacture of telephone, telegraph. All these are called as the basic industries or the key industries for the development of any country. These will be set up by the central government, but the private sector also will be allowed to continue. If any industries are there, they will also be continuing, but the new industries will be set up by the by the public sector. Then important industries controlled by the private sector are heavy chemical, sugar, cotton, textile, woolen, cement. All these will be included by the private sector. These industries continue to remain in the private sector. However, the central government, in consultation with state government, had general control over them. Though the private sector was there, but still the central government or the governments will have control over them. They're not totally private. Okay. There was also one more concept which you call it as a license Raj. It was called as a license Raj system. Remember this word, children. This is a very important word in economics as well as in geography also. It is called as a license Raj system. What is a license Raj system? Is that in the private sector, for example, if a private sector want to set up an industry, they have to take the license, permission from the government. If the government gives the permission, only you will be able to set up the industry. Plus, if you want to increase your production or if you want to establish one more branch, you have to take the permission of the government. If the government does not give you the permission, Shailja, I think the time is getting over, I think.
Yeah. Shall we join again?
For little more time, I will